Hello and welcome to Embrace the Deception. In this video we're going to be looking at a CNN interview with Bill Gates where they're talking about the coronavirus, the vaccine, and a couple of other things. When I opened up YouTube this morning I saw this video. This video is from yesterday, but every time I see an interview with Bill Gates I see things that I find off-putting. So let's see what we see in this video.
You've been sounding the alarm on the threat posed by infectious diseases and pandemics for years. Even in your wildest dreams, did you think it would ever get this bad in the United States?
No, I thought the United States would do a better job handling it. Overall, when I did the forecast in 2015, I talked about the deaths potentially being higher. So this virus could be more fatal than it is. We didn't get the worst case. But the thing that's surprised me is that the economic impact in the U.S. and around the world has been much greater than the forecast that I made 5 years ago.
Now, when he's talking about the economic impact being far greater than what he thought it would be, why does he seem so happy? It just seems weird to me. He seems pleased that the economic impact has been worse than he thought it would be.
The forecast that I made 5 years ago.
These vaccines were created and tested in record time, under a year. According to the data right now, they have a very high effectiveness, more than 90%. How much credit for the success do you think Operation Warp Speed and President Trump deserve?
Well,
I see a couple of interesting things there. When the interviewer is saying that the vaccine has been created in record time, Bill Gates is nodding along.
Were created and tested in record time, under a year.
He's got that asymmetrical smile is in the family of contempt, but people also show that when they're proud of something. It's like, yep, record time.
According to the data right now, they have a very high effectiveness.
So he's very proud of himself with that look. But then here's what's really interesting to me.
It's more than 90%. How much credit for the success do you think Operation Warp Speed and President Trump deserve?
Right there, micro expression of anger. He mentions Operation Warp Speed and President Trump, and then we have to remember that it looks like they're either on the internet or with a satellite link up, so there's a little bit of a delay. So he says Trump, 2 seconds later we see this micro expression of anger. It doesn't last very long, but his eyebrows come down.
90%. How much credit for the success do you think Operation Warp Speed and President Trump deserve?
Right there.
Well,
It's more than 90%. How much credit for the success do you think Operation Warp Speed and President Trump deserve?
Well,
And you'll see that throughout this video. Every time the interviewer mentions Trump, Bill Gates flashes a micro expression of anger. His eyebrows come down for a half a second. And so keep in mind the delay. Like he'll say Trump and then there's about 2 seconds and then we see the micro expression.
How much credit for the success do you think Operation Warp Speed and President Trump deserve?
1,000, 2, 1,000. There's the... So there's a delay from the satellite feed, but as soon as he says Trump and as soon as Bill Gates hears it, boom, we see the eyebrows come down. Now, Bill Gates goes on to answer the question and just talks about some of the different drug companies that have been working on the virus, so I'm not really interested in that so much, but let's see what happens when the interviewer is about to mention Trump again, and let's see what happens.
President Trump signed an executive order that he says prioritizes distribution of the vaccine to America.
There it is again, micro expression of anger, the eyebrows coming down. So again, there's a little bit of a delay.
President Trump signed an executive order that he says
Watch for the anger
prioritizes
expression.
distribution of the vaccine to Americans
right there.
Before it goes to people.
So clearly, Bill Gates is not a fan of Trump. I don't think that was a big secret before, but I think it's really interesting that every time this guy says Trump, we see the eyebrows come down in the middle, that little anger expression, every time without fail.
In other countries, it's not entirely clear how the order will achieve that, but what do you think of that strategy, that approach that everyone in the United States should be vaccinated first and then the U.S. should pivot, or these private companies should pivot to helping the rest of the world?
Well, I think we need to help all of humanity.
There was also another little micro expression of anger after hearing the question about what do you think about Americans getting the vaccine first before it's spread around the world. And of course, there's a delay, but that's from the satellite feed. So he'll mention, what do you think about Americans getting it first? Then there's the little bit of a delay, and then we see a little anger micro expression. So Bill Gates doesn't like the idea that that Americans get it first, and then it goes out to the rest of the world. That's kind of what Trump was saying, that we should take care of America first, and then we share the vaccine with everyone else. And of course, Bill Gates disagrees with that.
Everyone in the United States should be vaccinated first, and then the U.S. should
delay.
pivot, or these private companies should pivot to helping the rest of the world.
And then there's a little micro expression there.
Do you think one of these vaccines is better than the other?
When he answers this question, do you think one of these vaccines is better than the other? He says no. He thinks they're all, equally effective or whatever. That seems to be truthful, that he wouldn't pick one vaccine over the other.
No. The data on Moderna and Pfizer look very similar. Other vaccines are likely to be about the same.
So all of that, I don't see any signs of deception yet.
Where
but when we get to the end of this question, I see something interesting.
the numbers, it prevented severe disease in a very dramatic way. And so I'm super happy with all of these vaccines.
So he says, I'm super happy with all of these vaccines. He's saying he's happy, and his head is saying, no, I'm not. And then he sucks in his lips. That's withholding. So that, to me, those are two big red flags in my opinion.
I'm super happy with all of.
There's also a little bit of a stutter there, and that's sometimes a sign of deception. When you're talking about something that you really believe in, you usually speak smoothly. So it's not 100%, but we see a little stutter. We see the incongruent head shaking, and then we see his lips disappear.
And so I'm super happy with all of these vaccines.
I'm pretty comfortable in saying that I don't believe him when he says he's super comfortable with all of these vaccines. That's just my opinion.
For some jobs, like working in a nursing home, the government could decide that it's important for those people to be vaccinated because that'll save a lot of lives. And so
there's a little bit more subtle head shaking there.
For some jobs, like working in a nursing home, the government could decide that it's important for those people to be vaccinated.
It's important for those people. There's a little head shake. It's important for those people to be vaccinated.
Nursing home, the government could decide that it's important for those people to be vaccinated because that'll save a lot of lives.
Save a lot of lives. There's another little subtle head shake.
Because that'll save a lot of lives. And so
I'm not sure if he believes that.
The track record will be developed, and I think we'll get over the 70% that should reduce the transmission dramatically.
President-elect Biden joined with former Presidents Obama and Bush and Clinton, suggesting that they would all take the vaccine publicly. Are you considering doing the same?
No, I'll do the same. When it's my turn, I'm not going to budge. But
that was very interesting. The interviewer is talking about all these people, former presidents, that are going to be taking the vaccine publicly. Bill Gates looks very happy, big smile, nodding along.
Dramatically.
President-elect Biden joined with former Presidents Obama and Bush and Clinton, suggesting that they would all take the vaccine publicly.
Yes.
Are you considering doing the same?
No.
And then watch his facial expression change. Are you considering doing the same? His facial expression goes from very happy to no expression. And then listen to what he says. Will you be doing the same? Will you be taking the vaccine live? No. And he shakes his head. And then he says, yeah, I'll do it.
Take the vaccine publicly. Are you considering doing the same?
Right here, his facial expression really just goes from happy to nothing.
No, I'll do the same. When it's my...
And then he says no and shakes his head.
take the vaccine publicly. Are you considering doing the same?
No, I'll do the same. When it's my turn, I'm not going to budge. But when my turn comes up, I will visibly take the vaccine because.
Well, forgive me if I don't believe you, because that looked really shady. When he's talking about Biden and Obama and Bush, so these former presidents, and Biden, he's got a big smile on his face. He's nodding along. And as soon as it comes to him, are you going to take it? The smile goes to nothing. It just fades away. And then he says no. And then he shakes his head. And then he says, I'll take it. That seems pretty shady to me.
Because I think that it's a benefit to all people.
He says because he thinks it's a benefit to all people, he sticks his tongue out. That could be a sign that you find something distasteful. And then he shakes his head again.
Because I think that it's a benefit to all.
So one more time.
Comes up, I will visibly take the vaccine because I.
So there's the tongue sticking out. So it sticks the tongue out.
I think that it's a benefit to all.
I think it's a benefit to all, he says.
I think that it's a benefit to all.
So it's a benefit to all, and then he starts nodding, but at first he's shaking his head.
Because
There's the tongue sticking out.
Because I think that it's a benefit
head shake.
to all.
It's a benefit to all.
More than 30 million people in California are right now under brand new stay-at-home orders as hospitals there risk being overwhelmed. There are a lot of governors who oppose bringing back these lockdown orders and forcing businesses to close. What do you think? Do you think more states need to consider taking that kind of drastic?
Look at this smug look with contempt. I think he seems to want businesses to remain closed.
Drastic action and the kind of drastic action we saw when the pandemic first began, or can there be a more nuanced approach?
Let's skip ahead a little bit.
And obviously we're changing administrations, we're changing governments right in the middle of this unprecedented effort to distribute the vaccine. Are you worried that the changeover between administrations and the reluctance of President Trump to acknowledge the reality of his loss,
Did you see it again there? He mentions Trump, then there's a couple of seconds delay, and then there's the anger expression again.
And the reluctance of President Trump to acknowledge the reality of his
loss,
the delay of the transition, that it could complicate the process.
Yeah, transition is complicating, but the new administration is willing to rely on actual experts and not attack those experts.
Willing to rely on actual experts, shakes his head.
They're laying out clear plans. So I think we'll get through this in a positive way. I'm pleased with the people and the priority that the President-elect Biden and his team are bringing to bear on this problem. And Biden's doing his best to retain Francis Collins and Tony Fauci and add them to that strong group of people. These are people who are willing to admit when things aren't going well.
He says, shrug, these are people who are willing to admit when things aren't going well. He shakes his head.
These are people who are willing to...
See that? The shrug?
But people.
Shrug?
These are people who are willing to admit when things aren't going well.
Willing to admit.
And deliver tough messages, particularly about the next 4 to 6 months. And so, I do think the U.S. will not be one of the worst performers as the team comes into office.
Well, that's pretty much the end of the video there. So let me know in the comments what you think about this video. Do you see any weird stuff in his body language like I do? Do you think it's weird that he seems to be smiling and almost giddy when he's talking about the economy being even worse than he thought it would be? Do you think it's funny like I do that every time Trump's name is mentioned, he shows that anger expression? I mean, it's almost like pushing a button and getting a response. It's automatic, and I think that's hilarious. I don't care if your politics are right, left, or center. I just think it's funny that every time Trump's name is mentioned, we see the anger in his eyebrows. Boom, I don't like Trump. So I think that's kind of funny. But then there's incongruent body language. He's saying, you know, these guys are willing to admit when things aren't going right. So we see incongruent head nodding. Every time I see an interview with Bill Gates, I see a lot of really weird and disturbing body language. I don't trust this guy at all, but that's my opinion. Let me know what you think. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, share it on social media. And I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.